Half Shell Oyster House June and July features are here. Sweet, sweet summertime is here. We have the perfect bar food to snack on while catching your favorite game. Try our ahi tuna tostadas or cobia succotash. Maybe sip on our grilled jalapeno margarita. Happy hour is daily from 3 to 6 p.m. at Half Shell Oyster House, located at 115 Laurel Park Cove, Suite 105, Flowood, Mississippi, 39232, or you can give us a call at 769-257-7586. And oh yeah, tell them Sonia sent you.
She say, sports. She say, sports. She say, sports. She say, sports.
Hey y'all, it's your girl Sonia, and welcome back to She Say Sports. Today I have with me morning anchor with Fox5 DC and author of Pass Interference, A History of the Black Quarterback in the NFL, JSU alumnus, and my friend Wisdom Martin. What's up, Wiz?
Hey, how you feeling?
I am doing well. What about yourself?
Oh, I'm doing great. I can't complain.
The last time you were on the show, which was a couple of years ago, it was just audio only.
Oh, I know. See, we're evolving.
We're evolving. Absolutely. How's your family doing?
Everybody's good. School's finally out. They've been out. My daughter's back home from college. My oldest daughter. My other two, yes, and from Tuskegee.
Right?
Yeah, she went to Tuskegee. She couldn't be the real Tiger, so she had to go get those Tuskegee Tigers.
That's
but I'm gonna let that slide.
HBCU.
That's
and I'm
right.
cool with that.
It's the HBCU. And my other two, my high schooler and my middle schooler, they're out of school now, so I got to find things to do before they get on my nerves too bad. So yeah.
Which one is my baby that sends you notes in the morning? Write you.
Oh, that's the baby girl. That's the youngest one, the middle school.
Her heart is amazing.
Yeah.
She's doing well.
Oh yeah, she's running things around here.
Oh, absolutely.
Running everything.
Well, I'm not gonna hold you because I know you are on like a book tour with different interviews. As a matter of fact, you were on Tamron Hall a few weeks ago. So I feel honored to be a part of it.
Come on now, you family. You know that. All you gotta do is call me and I'm there.
Absolutely.
We go way back.
We go way back, 30 years back. So I appreciate it. So Wiz, let's get to it. With everything that's been going on in sports, especially Black student athletes leaving Power 5 and going to HBCUs across the nation, I feel your book is very timely.
Yeah.
Tell us about the labor of love that started for you with this book.
Well, what happened was back when I was younger, back in the old days, my father used to sit down with me and watch football. Mm-hmm. And back then, Doug Williams at the time was the only starting Black quarterback in the NFL during that time period. And I thought that was odd, and he explained to me why that was. He said Doug Williams is the only starting Black quarterback, and Vince Evans at the time with the Chicago Bears was he was a sometime starter with Chicago. This was before they got good. So then you only had two. You had two Black quarterbacks. So then he started to explain to me why that was, and race was a factor. Out of all these teams and three quarterbacks on each team, these were the only two in the NFL. So I started keeping notes in a notebook throughout the years. And then the more I watched, the more I was like, oh, this is something. And then I started watching college, and you would see Black quarterbacks all throughout college, but in the NFL, it just was not translating. And I started digging into why. I started reading all these magazines and all these books about it. And my father kept talking to me about it. And once I got to be an adult and I started working on this project for real, I started calling some of these guys and asking them to tell me their story and about why they thought that Black quarterbacks had not been successful in the NFL. And they told me specifically, the reason is because they were excluded from the position simply because the owners, the coaches, management did not think that a Black man could lead a football team, could not be the face of a franchise, and was simply not smart enough to have that particular position. Because remember, this is the highest profile position in American sports. So they were told, and I'm talking going all the way back to the 50s when I interviewed the late George Telefero, who played from 49 to 55. He was told that back then, and it wasn't even officially the NFL yet. It was pro football that evolved into the National Football League, but it was in its early stages. So then they had a ban on black players, and then they reintegrated the league, and then it was still, black quarterback here and there, and they were denied. So once I started doing all this research and started talking to him, I was like, this is exactly what I thought it was. Race wasn't an issue when it came to this one position in American sports.
So, and let's go back to that ban. So they were banned, black players were banned in 1933 by the owners, and it was an agreement called the Gentleman's Agreement.
It was a gentleman's agreement. It was after George Telefero, but it was a gentleman's agreement where they said, because baseball was doing the same thing. So they had this unofficial thing where they were not going to draft any black players. They were not going to sign any black players. So for, I believe it was a 12-year period, no black players played in professional football. None. So that to me speaks volumes that they did this specifically to keep the black players out, following along with what baseball was doing. And then once baseball started to integrate with Jackie Robinson, then football followed suit. And this speaks to the long-standing issue that the National Football League has had when it comes to dealing with race. So it goes all the way back then to what's happening now with the coaches. I mean, you see with Brian Flores suing them because of what they're doing with the coaches. It is so hard for a black coach to get a job in the NFL and then to keep that job. It's insane. Front office jobs are hard to come by. So the Colin Kaepernick incident, that whole thing. So they've always had a long-standing problem when it comes to racial issues. Anything dealing with race, the NFL has stumbled and fumbled. Think about this, Sonia. All right, so the National Basketball Association, the NBA, they had their first black coach, Bill Russell, who was a coach and player and won, I believe he won back-to-back championships in the 60s. That was the 60s, all right? And the NBA has had black coaches since then. Major League Baseball, which is not even predominantly black, had managers in professional baseball in the 60s all the way up to now. The NFL, which is predominantly black, I'm talking 70% black, didn't even get their first head coach until it was Art Shell, and that was in the 90s. And to this day, we're still having these same conversations with these NFL coaches about why they created a Rooney Rule. It's interesting to me about the Rooney Rule, and I'm all over the place now. But the Rooney Rule in the NFL, they created this. But isn't it interesting how the NBA does not have a Rooney Rule, and they hire black coaches like nobody's business? I mean, they'll fire them, but at least they'll hire them.
They'll hire
Major League Baseball, again, not a majority black sport, but they do hire black managers. No Rooney Rule. The NFL, 70% of your players are black, but you got to have a Rooney Rule just so you can interview more than qualified black assistant coaches, just so they can get a shot at getting a job, and then you still turn them down. So that's still a farce. So to me, again, speaks to the problem with race in the NFL when it comes to leadership and having black men in these positions. They even put a stipulation in the Rooney Rule where they called it a minority position, minorities, which means you can have women in there as well. So now you got the men who are trying to get these jobs, and then every time they hire, it could be a white woman, it could be anybody. So now they all got all this, they threw everybody into one group, and they're still not hiring people.
What are they afraid of?
That's a very good question. I don't know, but what I do know is that this part of history keeps repeating itself in this league, and it defies logic as to why they're still hanging on. Think about it. If the NFL was able to get past this, we probably wouldn't even be having this conversation, because again, in the NBA, let's talk about the NBA. They have black coaches left and right. They fire a black coach, they hire a black coach. A black coach with minimal experience can get a job in the NBA, and they will have some kind of success. And it's not even a conversation. When they fire a black coach in the NBA, it's not even a conversation. It's like, oh, okay, because you still got 5 or 6 or 10, whatever it is, more. But in the NFL, what you got? Mike Tomlin, and I'm trying to think of who the other coach. I think the coach in Houston.
My old coach from Chicago, he's with Houston now. What's his name? The black guy.
Yeah. For you not talking about Frazier, are you?
No. That oh my gosh, Lovey Smith.
Oh, Lovey, yeah, Lovey
back.
Smith, yeah.
He's back in.
Yeah. So it's very bizarre.
Very sporadic, and I think they only hired Lovey because of what was going on. They were getting ready to hire a young white guy that had just got out the league. I can't think of his name either.
Right.
We talked. I don't know, but you're absolutely right. I don't understand it. It's interesting how it's just like I'm like, is it fear? You think we're going to take over? I mean, well, if it wasn't for a lot of the black athletes, and I'm sorry to say it, a lot of these teams would not be good.
Right.
Period. So
yeah, you're talking about 70%. 70%, all the positions except for quarterback.
Mm-hmm.
I mean, it defies logic as to why they keep operating the same way over and over again. And they keep, even with the Rooney Rule created for this, they say, well, since we got the Rooney Rule, what we're going to do is we'll take Sonya and Wisdom and run them through here and pretend like we're going to hire them just so we can meet the Rooney Rule. And then we'll hire whoever we want to hire, who's not, and by the way, most of these guys, a lot of these guys, I'm not going to say a lot of them, that get hired for these jobs in the NFL are terrible. Yeah. They can't coach, and they're definitely not more qualified than the guys that are getting passed over. So it's not like they're hitting home runs. And then I saw something on one of these websites where they tried to come up with some rationale as to, well, the black coaches are not succeeding on the same level and failing on the same level as the white coaches or whatever. I'm like, well, there are no black coaches. When you compare it to how many there are white coaches. So that stat is irrelevant. But see, it's pretty bad.
And the Rooney Rule, the owner Rooney, he started that rule.
Mm-hmm.
Pittsburgh, they kind of got it. He understood, and that's why he started the rule, because he was trying to give them opportunity.
Exactly.
And so, and I think Mike Tomlin is a good coach, number one.
Oh, absolutely.
But number two, I think that's one of the reasons why he's been there so long, because that's the standard there in a sense. Because he started that rule. So I don't know. But I want to go back a little bit to the ban. It was interesting. The two black players that stopped the ban for the football was Kenny Washington and Woody Strode. And they went to school with Jackie Robinson at UCLA.
Mm-hmm.
I wonder if they had conversations about trying to, be able to play in their favorite sport professionally. Those three. That was amazing to me when I researched that. I had no clue that all three of them went to school together. And that's amazing to me.
Yeah, Jackie Robinson was just as good as a football player as he was a baseball player.
Wow.
But they wouldn't let him play football.
Amazing. I didn't know that.
Yeah.
That's amazing. So, we talked about a lot of stuff that I wanted to say. So you had an opportunity to speak with the first black quarterback Heisman Trophy winner, Andre Ware, as well as the first black quarterback to win the Super Bowl, Doug Williams. Mm-hmm. What are their takes on the struggles that black quarterbacks deal with in the NFL?
Well, it's funny because Andre Ware, when he won that Heisman Trophy coming out of Houston, his stats and his abilities were so amazing that on paper they couldn't ignore him. But the problem is they got him on the team, which was Detroit. It was a horrible, horrible team, and obviously it's just a bad franchise. So they get him in there with a bad franchise and bad coach. He didn't get much of an opportunity. So here you have this guy that was lighting up in college. He gets to the pros, and the coach is like, you run him out there for a couple of games at the end of the year, 3 or 4 games at the end of the year, and they're like, okay, next year comes around. They have somebody else starting ahead of him. And then they do that for 3 years, and then they trade him away. He never got a fair shot. And he said that in the book, that he never felt like he got a fair shot in the NFL. And when he got traded to Houston, and he was going to be a backup for Warren Moon, he said it was the same way. He never got a fair shot. He ended up in Canada like a lot of these players. So it's kind of like okay, we want a seat. We've heard the expression, we want a seat at the table. Well, in Andre Ware's case, they let us in the room, but they didn't give us a seat at the table. They just let us in the room and we just stood. We just stand over there. We're going to sit at the table. You stand over there. The problem is we need to be at the table. When they're eating, we need to be eating. And that's the problem. We don't want just to come into the room. We don't want to just sit at the table. We want to do the same thing at the table that everybody else is doing, the same opportunities. Andre Ware, like a lot of other black quarterbacks, never got that fair shake. And with Doug Williams, when he was in Tampa Bay, the coach enjoyed it. Coach McKay enjoyed it, and he was good. They almost went to the Super Bowl one year. The Rams beat him in the NFC Championship. But Doug Williams was a beast. He was a legend in the SWAC. In our conference. Right. He was a legend, one of the best quarterbacks, big arm. He wasn't running around, he wasn't scrambling. He had a big arm, he could throw the football on a bad team. When his contract, and he got all kinds, he talked about the hate mail that he got just because he was playing football, all that negativity. And then when his contract came up, he wanted some more money. They were like, nah, this guy was getting paid. Doug Williams, for all he was doing, he was Tampa Bay at the time.
Right.
For all he was doing, he was one of the lowest paid quarterbacks. I mean, they had backup quarterbacks in the NFL at the time that were making way more money than Doug Williams back then. So he ended up going somewhere else to the USFL. Got back to the NFL with Washington. We know what happened when he won the Super Bowl. Right. And then the next year, a couple of games in, he struggled out of the gate. But this is what we're talking about. He wins the Super Bowl, and they're like, I'll never forget, Dan Dierdorf was calling that game. And at the end of the game, when Doug got the MVP, he said, Dan Dierdorf was the commentator, and he said, I hope this puts to rest all of those myths about the black quarterback not being able to win. Well, it sounded good, but that's not what happened. Because the next year, Doug Williams didn't even make it through the halfway point of the next year before he got benched. And then once that happened, he never played as a starter again in the NFL. And we didn't have another black quarterback go to the Super Bowl until McNabb and McNair went and lost. And then Russell Wilson won. And then Patrick Mahomes a couple of years ago won. That's it. That's it.
Crazy.
That's crazy. All these years, all this time. And then some people create the narrative where you can't win with a black quarterback. I go back to the stats. That's because they aren't given a chance. They aren't given a chance. They aren't given an opportunity to stay there long enough to be developed and to win football games on a high level. So that's a huge problem right there when it comes to the National Football League as well.
So Wiz, it's 2022.
Mm-hmm.
How would you grade the NFL when it comes to black quarterbacks in an NFL? Well, you know what? Black players, period. What's your grade for them right now from A, B, C, D, F?
I like the fact that a lot of these players, and it started with Kaepernick, are beginning to stand up and speak out. Mm-hmm. That is huge because once you start doing that, and you see how uncomfortable these owners got.
Oh my gosh.
Yeah, it was insane. Some of them started showing their true colors because they knew that once these players started speaking out and once they start coming together as a unit, then that was going to be a problem.
Right.
I will say that as far as the quarterbacks go, there are more quarterbacks in the NFL now than there have ever been. Because you have ones that are on the bench, they're getting drafted, they're getting signed as free agents. So that part is good. Damian Craig, who used to play back in the late 90s, who went to Auburn, who's from Alabama. He talked about this in the book as well. He was saying, at least now, the black quarterback is getting some kind of opportunity, whereas in the past, for the most part, the door was shut. It didn't matter what you did in college, for the most part, and it didn't matter how successful you were not going to get much of an opportunity in the National Football League. And that's why you had so many people going to Canada. That's why you had so many people switching positions, like the great Ken Riley from Florida A&M back in the 60s. Great quarterback at FAMU, legendary quarterback at FAMU. When it came time for him to go to the pros, they said, you got to play defensive back. He wanted a paycheck. He didn't have a choice. It was either that or go to Canada. So he stayed in America, became a Hall of Fame cornerback. But that's the standard. Switch positions or go to Canada, or maybe we'll give you a little shot like James Harris in the 70s as well, Grambling as well, before Doug Williams had a shot with the Rams. Well, first with Buffalo and then the Rams. And same thing with Doug. Almost got the Rams to the Super Bowl. They got beat by Minnesota. He was the first Black quarterback to go to the Pro Bowl in 1974. Then the next year is the year I think they almost got to the Super Bowl. Minnesota beat them. And then after that, it was a wrap. It moved on to somebody else. A lot of times it is the owner. James Harris said it was the owner. It wasn't the coach. It was Chuck Knox at the time. It wasn't the coach that was the problem, but it was the owner who were like, this guy can't be the face of our franchise because that's just the way it was. And you still to this day, there's a story in this book about this is before the Deshaun Watson drama. When he was in Houston, the superintendent of a school district in Houston got on a podcast or on radio and said, this is after Houston had lost the game, said something about you can't win with a Black quarterback. If you want to win, you can't have a Black quarterback. This was a couple of years ago. Yeah, in current times. And this guy was running a school district. So therein lies the problem. You still have too many of these people in high positions who think that the color of your skin, just because of the color of your skin, you can't succeed in that position. And therein lies the problem. So, yeah.
And as we're talking, and, it's been conversations. I have two former NFL players that come on the show. We do once a month, during football season. And we talk about the picks and everything and different players and the teams. But we've talked about it's like a slavery mentality.
Right.
They want the Blacks to, they just want to use their athleticism as far as the speed, the running, putting your body in danger, but you're not. The white guy is to be the quarterback, to lead everybody, to steer everybody to victory. It's white quarterbacks lose all the time. I'm a Chicago Bears fan, and I've been dealing with them for years.
Yeah.
So, I mean, you brought up Deshaun Watson, and I was gonna ask you about not to digress, but Ben Roethlisberger, former player for the Steelers, Pittsburgh Steelers. He had rape allegations. However, they never fired him. He kept playing. Forget about what was being said. They kept him on the team. Now Deshaun is going through. These allegations are they something. Yeah. However, do you think they're gonna just kind of like sit him down? They was trying to give him an opportunity. They did, move him to another team. Yeah. But because of everything that keeps coming out these last few weeks, what are your thoughts on that?
Well, with Deshaun Watson, it's a bizarre. So everything about this is a bizarre set of circumstances.
So bizarre.
So today or this week, he settled with let's see, is it 20? I think it's four women out of the. It's like 22 that he settled with, monetarily settled with.
That's crazy.
So there are still 2 or 3 more, maybe 4 more that say that they're going to continue to pursue this. So he's trying to clear the deck with the majority. Right. So in civilly, he's pretty much getting rid of that. But my thing with the whole Deshaun Watson case situation is when he was in Houston and all this stuff started to come out, and I really, usually where there's smoke, there's fire. I don't know. We weren't there. But in Houston, so they pretty much said, you can't play this year. Okay. You can't play this year. They didn't play it. Season ends, and then he gets traded to Cleveland. And then they give him some more money. So my question is, so how does Cleveland know? You just paid this guy. He didn't play a lick last year in Houston, and he's got all these allegations against it. But you traded for him and then gave him some money. So does Cleveland know something that the rest of us don't know?
Exactly. That's
why I say it's bizarre. And the NFL, they usually drop the hammer every time. Well, they try or pretend like they're going to drop the hammer when it comes to certain things. They're just, okay, we're going to let it play out. Like, he's not suspended.
He's not suspended.
So I don't know it's again, this is the most bizarre thing I've ever seen. So with all this hanging over his head, he gets traded to Cleveland and gets a pay raise. So what's really going on?
I don't know. And sir, how many massages do you get? Who?
Yeah.
You're an athlete. You may have to get more massages than the average person, but my God.
I know.
So I don't know. I wish him well. I
Yeah.
pray that none of this stuff is true. I understand that civil lawsuits doesn't mean that you're actually guilty, but
Hmm.
it looks pretty bad. It really,
It
really
does
does.
look bad. It looks really bad.
Yeah. So you mentioned, and I was going to ask you, you mentioned Colin Kaepernick
Hmm.
earlier. So the NFL and Colin Kaepernick, you know, we know all the issues that's been dealing with
Right.
that. Uh, you know, Tim Tebow can bend and, you know, bend
Right.
down and do stuff, but he bends down because not against the flag or the national
Hmm.
anthem, but against police brutalities
Right.
against blacks. So they give him an opportunity to try out for a team a few weeks ago.
Hmm.
What does that mean to you?
Nothing. Because absolutely nothing. Again, this has been one of these made up words. This is a word that somebody made up, a shamocracy
Yeah.
from the beginning. I remember a couple of years ago, you remember when they had him in Atlanta and they were
Yeah.
going to fake try him, or these teams were going to show up and fake watch it, and he caught on to the scam, and he was like, y'all not going to play
And I'm
me.
not even going, right.
I'm not going, I'm going to do my own thing over here.
At the high school.
It's been a scam. And you're not going to tell me that during this whole time now, by NFL standards, he's old by NFL standards now, and he hadn't thrown a pass in I don't know how many years it's been.
6 years, maybe 6.
Yeah,
that's 6 years.
His best years in regards to football have been wasted not playing football simply because of what he did. They blackballed him, and Roger Goodell and all of the Jerry Joneses of the world, they hated him when he first did it. Again, like you said, Tim Tebow did it, and not one word was mentioned. Tim Tebow's a great guy, and I'm sure Tim Tebow is a great guy, but nobody complained about Tim Tebow. The moment Kaepernick does it and says it's about police brutality, he gets blackballed, and they drop the hammer. Nobody wanted it. And then last year or 2 years ago, Goodell comes out and says, "Oh, we made a mistake about this." Well, thanks, Roger. Appreciate it. You also,
but he never apologized.
Yeah,
he never apologized to him.
Right. So it just speaks to how tone deaf the National Football League is and their leadership is. But when you're operating like they operate, basically a group led by one guy, and they're all on the same page. Mm-hmm. They can do these kinds of things. They can discriminate against people. Even up here in Washington right now, they got all these sexual assault allegations, and Roger Goodell's punishment for the owner, Dan Snyder. Oh, your punishment is your wife's going to run the team from now on. Seriously?
So the money is stayed in the family.
Yeah.
Your living never changes.
Nothing ever changes. Punished. In fact, Sonia, when they changed the name, when they announced the changing of the name, now again, Roger Goodell had just said that Tanya Snyder was running the team. Guess who was up there at the press conference talking about our new name with a jacket on? Dan Snyder had the jacket on front and center, and I'm like, wait a minute. Roger Goodell said he wasn't running the team. Said Tanya was running the team. She was in the background. So.
It's a good old boy. It's still a good old boy situation going on.
Yeah.
Two black athletes who need an apology. Of course, Colin Kaepernick and Mahmoud Abdul-Rauf, aka Chris Jackson. Of course, Commissioner Stern is gone to glory now, but he needs, because they took a lot of money out of that man's family.
Same thing.
They stalled him, and they did that on purpose. And all he did was sit down.
Yeah. So, and I believe that, didn't they burn down his, I think they burned down his, I can't remember what city he was in. Maybe in Sacramento or something.
Georgia or something, or Florida, I can't remember. But yeah, they did. And he has a documentary with Showtime coming out. He was on the show a few months ago, and I wanted to talk to him about that, but he couldn't because of the contract.
Oh, right, I got you.
Time. So he needs an apology.
Oh, absolutely.
And
some money. Yeah, he needs to get a lawyer and go back and try to get some of that money. And I don't know.
I'm hoping that's what he's doing.
Yeah. So yeah, that's ridiculous.
So do black players still have a long way to go in order to have complete equality in the NFL in 2022?
Yeah, absolutely. They have a long way to go, because while the black athletes are making strides on the football field and in different positions, there's still a large gap between the players, the number of players, the number of assistant coaches. There are now a lot of assistant coaches, but again, very few head coaches and very few opportunities to be head coaches. Right. Very few opportunities in the front office. So we're talking general managers and vice presidents. Very few opportunities there, and there are no owners, none. No. So that's where we got to start making headway right there. I don't know how we're going to do this, but at some point, that's the part that needs to change. And when we do get in there, whoever is like vice president or general manager, they got to start making some moves and start making some changes. That's the only way this is going to change, because as long as you have the same old owners passing it on to their kids, and their kids hiring their friends, it's going to be the same thing in those front office positions, and probably with the coaches too. So that's the next barrier in the NFL that we have to break through, is the one where where the black players eventually get to evolve into being in charge of these different teams. Because again, I say to you, it's not an issue in the NBA. I mean, Elton Brand is a general manager with the Sixers in the NBA, and they crossed all these barriers a long time. Michael Jordan's an owner a long time ago, and yet here we are in the NFL with this same old mindset and the same old mentality when it comes to these top positions and these leadership positions.
You know, we have several black billionaires now: Tiger, LeBron, Mike, Diddy, Jay-Z. They need to get together and buy a football team. Right. Or we may need to start doing expansion and get our own team. We need to do something, because something needs to be done where there is equality for all. If we can't, you know, I had no clue Doug Williams was making pennies as a quarterback. That's crazy to me. Yeah. However, you know, we got to keep pushing and we got to keep knocking on the door. I'm glad, like you said, Colin made us think about it. He didn't sit back. Brian Flores, he told the truth. You know, well, yeah, he told it after what they did to him. You know, it was kind of like, I don't like that. But he did say something, and things are, you know, started opening up. So we'll see. But one last question before I let you go. What do you want the readers to come away with after reading Pass Interference?
Well, what I wanted to know is that it took a lot. We're talking about the black athletes. It took a lot for the black athletes to get to the point, even to where they are today, and they went through a lot. So I don't want people to forget the struggle. Just because they see some successful players, they see the successful Patrick Mahomes, and they see successful Russell Wilson, and you know, Doug Williams won that one Super Bowl, but it's still a struggle, and he got some money afterwards and some front office jobs. But I don't want people to forget the struggle and the people who paved the way and opened all the doors for today's players. Warren Moon, I don't know, we hadn't mentioned Warren Moon, about how he was so successful in college at University of Washington, won the Rose Bowl, comes around and nobody wants him in the NFL, goes to the Canadian League, wins 5 championships, 5 MVPs, and then the NFL comes calling in Houston at first, and then he goes there and he gets hate mail, and they're like, I can't believe you paid this N-word all this money to come here and win 5 games. So I don't want people to forget these stories, because the stories that I heard by interviewing these guys was a story of struggle, a story of they had achieved at some point to the highest level, to the best of their abilities, and they were denied opportunities simply because of their skin color. So I don't want people to forget all of that hard work, all of that labor that all these black players went through all the way back to the 40s, all the way up until today. They put in work. They opened the doors. They kicked down some. They may not have been successful, but every little thing that they did was a chip against that wall that kept all the black players from playing quarterback, to the point where, okay, we're still knocking at it. Every little, you know, a start here, a start there, and then the whole started opening up. And then you eventually got to Donovan McNabb and Achilles Smith, who didn't get much of an opportunity either, and Warren Moon, Randall Cunningham, and now with the current crop of players, even the Cam Newtons of the world. They were not getting these opportunities back in the day. Charlie Ward, Steve McNair, the late Steve McNair. Now, again, they're getting opportunities, but it's all because of what went on before they got there. So I want people to come away after they read this book with, oh my gosh, that was a journey. that was a serious journey, and they went through a lot just so these guys could play football at that particular position. So that's what I hope that people will take away from this. I try to keep it as simple as possible.
That's awesome. And, you know, I'm so glad that your dad, y'all had this thing together before he transitioned, you know, growing up. Just that's a memory you'll always have. And then having this book that I know that's, you know, that's it's for him.
Yeah. It's definitely special. When we used to sit around and watch football, and he would say that he was like, "Oh, the media is to blame too. Listen to how they talk about Doug Williams every time he throws a pass." So again, he sparked all that, and he explained to me all these different things. So you're right. It is special. It's a labor of love, and it's a passion project, and I owe it all to him. Also a Jackson State grad. So I owe it all to him for sparking that flame and giving me the ability to have these intelligent conversations from a young age all the way up until I was like, okay, all right, maybe I can do this. So yeah, thanks to Pops.
Thanks, Pop. And I know he was looking down, smiling. But before we go, I have a game that I play called "You Can Get With This" or "You Can Get With That." And that is, it's a way for the listeners and myself to get to know the guests better. I'll ask you a few questions, and you choose the one that best fits you. Okay?
Okay.
All right. Vacation or staycation?
Ooh, that's tough. Let's see, I'm cheap. I don't like to spend money. I might. You know what? I'm gonna do vacation.
Vacation.
It's close.
Where would you want to go right now if you could?
Ooh, right now? Oh, Hawaii.
Yes.
Hawaii. You been?
I've never been. I want to go.
I've never been.
That would be so nice.
Everybody that goes says it's amazing, and I have to go. So I have to go to Hawaii. But again, I'm cheap, so that's gonna be an issue. If I can go by myself, maybe I can go by myself.
No, your wife will hurt you. Just you and the wifey, not the kids.
Don't take the kids.
Just you and the wife.
Make sure they don't hear me. No kids.
Would you prefer being afraid or being embarrassed?
Probably embarrassed more than being afraid, because fear is a deep psychological thing.
Right.
You can be embarrassed, and at some point you can laugh about it, because I've been embarrassed several times before. And you can laugh about that, or you can just be like, ooh, I'm not gonna do that again. That was rough. But fear, that's some subconscious stuff. So I'm gonna go with being embarrassed on that one.
It's false evidence appearing real. And I agree with you. I literally fell out of my chair a few weeks ago doing a show. I'm gonna send it to you. It's hilarious. So I was like, you know what? Let's keep it. I told my partner, I said, let's just keep it. It was funny. Right. You gotta laugh at yourself sometimes.
Yeah.
Do you prefer being a morning anchor or night anchor?
Well, here's the thing. I'm not crazy about the hours, because I get up at 2 o'clock in the morning. Yeah, that's brutal. I don't care what anybody says. You never get used to that. However, because my kids are young and they have lots of activities in the afternoon, it gives me a chance. I get home probably about noon every day. So it has given me a chance and gives me a chance to interact with them. I can pick them up from school. I take them to practice. I pick them up from practice. I get to see all their games. So at this point in my life, while they're still in school, I'm gonna say morning.
So what time do you go to bed at night?
Whenever I can get in the bed. I can go to bed at 5 o'clock. But that doesn't happen because
you're taking them places.
Yeah, he had a basketball game last night at 7:30. So I don't remember what time I had to bed. So all of his games, his high school summer games, are like at 7:30. And he had a 9 o'clock game one night, and I told everybody at work, do not try me today. I just went to bed a couple hours. Yeah, do not try me.
And so you get off around what, 11 o'clock?
11:30, somewhere in that neighborhood.
Okay.
Yeah.
Well, that's not bad. Do you try to get a little sleep at all during the day?
It just depends. It depends on what I have to do. Yeah. Yeah.
So, do you prefer a jazz concert or a hip hop concert?
Well, it depends. Are we talking about old school hip hop or new school hip hop? I can't do the mumble rap.
Me either. I can't stand it. It is, however, it is a few rappers that I love now, younger. Kendrick Lamar, J. Cole. Yeah. I like Drake.
I like Drake. That's one of my favorites. Drake and Kendrick Lamar, I love them.
So I'll
But you
say
said
old school
jazz.
hip hop. I'll say jazz concert or old school hip hop concert.
I might do old school hip hop.
Who you want to see?
Let's see. I've never seen, as far as hip hop goes, this is gonna be weird. LL Cool J.
Oh, that's not weird.
I thought, cause look,
I love him.
Yeah, I thought he had so much talent, and for a while there, for 15 years, his music was so, it was so hip and so relevant, but it wasn't like too far this way and too far that way. It was right in the middle where everybody could enjoy it.
He made the first hip hop love song.
Yeah.
I mean, love. I mean, he is definitely a pioneer in the early years of hip hop. I love him. I don't see nothing wrong with that. That's cool. Would you prefer being a passenger or a driver?
Oh, I'm a driver all day.
You want to be in control?
Yeah, I'm a control freak. I don't like sitting in the passenger seat because I'm like, oh, what you doing? Where you going? Stay in your lane.
Can they turn the radio?
Wait, if I'm driving? No. Absolutely not.
I'm the same way.
Yeah. Steering wheel, radio. Steering wheel, radio. Don't touch it.
Totally, I agree. Shaka Khan or Minnie Riperton?
Shaka Khan.
What's your favorite Shaka song?
I Feel For You. You know why? Because that was a Prince song. Prince is my favorite. Prince and Marvin Gaye are my favorite too. But a lot of people don't know that Prince did that song without the rap.
Sure did.
I think it was 79, one of his first albums.
78 or 79. Mm-hmm.
Yeah. So I love that song. And that kind of made, Shaka Khan had been around for a while. And that kind of made her at the time kind of newish. You know what I mean?
Right.
People rediscovered her at that time.
Yeah, that was on her, I think like 83, 84 album. But yeah, I agree. Yep. At the movie, popcorn or candy?
Popcorn. What's better? Hold on. Popcorn.
We're almost done. Yeah, I love. My sister, when we were at Jackson State, she would sneak food and she would pick us up because she's 5 years older. So we'll have Taco Bell, all types of stuff, even a little drinky drink. So we had our own beverages and we had a good time at the movie.
Now I have sneaked some Chick-fil-A inside the movie theater before, but that's between us. Don't tell nobody else that.
Oh, that's fancy. Chick-fil-A. Oh no, it was Taco Bell or Crystals, but we couldn't have Crystals because of the onions, so we could smell it. A few more. Snowfall, the show Snowfall or BMF?
Ooh, Snowfall. I like it.
We got one more season.
Damson, what's his name? Damson Idris or whatever his name is. Yeah.
Idris Damson. I know he is very young, but I love him.
Yeah, I like him too. Yeah, I like what he's doing.
We got one more season.
Oh, yeah. Oh, really? Okay.
It's gonna be something. And he is Franklin Saint is not. It's a rap. The person we knew. Yeah. You from the SIP? Fried catfish or fried chicken?
That's tough. Probably fried chicken because I ate more of it when I was coming up, and then I grew up on a farm, so they would just go out there and what would happen when they went out back.
No, I would never.
I didn't do it.
But no, Wiz, let me tell you though, I already have a problem with. It's so weird if I eat a chicken leg or I can't eat it if I think about I'm eating a chicken leg, but to literally watch somebody do this, oh no, I'm done.
Well, I'll tell you a quick story. When I was growing up on the farm, my grandfather, they used to hook those pigs up and do sausage. Have you ever seen that process?
No.
Oh my goodness. This is when I used to eat pork. All right, and it wasn't a big deal because it was just norm. So they would go out there and they would, do their thing with pigs, the biggest one, and then you get the knife, and then it was just like, oh, that's interesting. And then you'd have sausage about an hour and a half later.
No, thank you.
Smokehouse.
So were you friends with these animals?
Oh no, they were just food.
Okay, I would have been trying to, make them friends and all that.
No, we knew better. No, we knew what they were for.
Oh my God.
Back then they tasted good. I don't eat pork now, but back then I was like, young. Couldn't do it now.
Oh my gosh, no.
Yeah.
Last but not least, and you mentioned him earlier, old school, new school, Warren Moon or Russell Wilson?
Ooh, wow. I'm gonna go. You got me on this one because Russell Wilson's grandfather coached at Jackson.
I know. I know. He has Jackson
Warren Moon.
roots, yeah.
Damn, Warren Moon was phenomenal. I don't know.
That's your guy. I know that's your guy.
Yeah. I'm gonna go with Warren Moon. I'm gonna go with Warren Moon because by the time he got to the NFL, he was an old man, but he still put up all those numbers. So,
okay, that's fair
man,
enough.
that's like neck and neck. Neck and neck. You got me on that one.
I knew it. I was like, that's gonna be tough for him. Wiz, thank you so much for joining me on the show today. Thank you. Please tell the listeners how they can follow you on social media as well as buy your book. And I tried to buy it the other day so I can pick it up. It's sold out at Barnes and Nobles and Books a Million.
Oh, really? Oh, okay. Well,
so
you
I had to order it, but I want you to sign it, so I got to figure out how I need to do that.
Well, here's the thing. I'm working on having a book signing in Jackson at Homecoming. I don't have a location yet, but we're still working on that. And I got one coming up in New Orleans for Essence Fest. So I'll be in New Orleans at Essence Fest.
Okay.
That all the locations and everything that'll be determined probably in the next week or so. New Orleans Essence Fest was my first one, but I'm gonna have one in Jackson at Homecoming. So I'll be at Jackson Homecoming.
Well, I get it signed then. Awesome.
Yes, and it'll be all over social media. I'm all over social media. You see my big head on there. And let's see what else. Social media, Barnes and Nobles, Amazon.com, anywhere where you can get a book, that's where you can get it. And again, I'm all over. So you can't miss me on social media because I'm on there promoting this book like crazy.
Absolutely, he really is. So, and they can follow you at Wisdom Martin on all your that's your handles on all the social media?
Yes, Wisdom Martin TV with 3 E's because I misspelled it when I created the account on Instagram. Wisdom Fox5 on Twitter, and Facebook is just Wisdom. I think it's just Wisdom Martin or something like that. But
awesome.
So yeah.
And guys, you can follow me at She Say Sports on Facebook, She Say Sports 23 on Instagram, at She Say 23 on Twitter, and please subscribe to our YouTube page, She Say Sports. Well, until next time, this is Sonia with She Say Sports. Bye, Wiz.
See ya. Thank you for having me.